My name is Michael Grant. I am 61 years old, and for nearly 3 decades I served as the chief financial officer of one of Chicago's most respected manufacturing companies, Hamilton & Coher Industries. 30 years of my life were spent buried in spreadsheets, analyzing risks, balancing books, and making financial decisions that shaped millions of dollars in corporate wealth. But if you ask me what I truly worked for all those years, the answer would never be the company. It was always my family. My wife, Evelyn, and our 2 children, Daniel and Sophia, were my reason for breathing. Every late night at the office, every stressful meeting with investors, every dollar I earned, I did it with them in mind. When Daniel told me he wanted to pursue his MBA at Northwestern University, I wrote the $45,000 check without hesitation. When Sophia dreamed of opening a boutique in Lincoln Park, I provided her the $120,000 she needed to get started. And for Evelyn? For her, there was no limit. A new Lexus every year, vacations to Paris, Rome, Barcelona, our dream home in Badiasarm, Winnetka. I was known in the company as the silent strategist. I wasn't loud, I wasn't flashy, but I was precise, calm, a man who always calculated 10 steps ahead. And yet, for all my foresight in business, I failed to see the betrayal forming in my own home. In the months leading up to my retirement, I noticed Evelyn was different. She spent long hours whispering into her phone, ending conversations abruptly whenever I walked into the room. Daniel and Sophia began asking strange questions about my will, about inheritance, about how I had arranged my investments. At first, I brushed it off as curiosity, but deep down a storm was brewing. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. 30 years of service finally coming to an end. We planned something simple, a backyard party with family, close friends, and a few neighbors. I stood there, smiling, thinking about the future Evelyn and I had planned. Traveling across America in our new RV, maybe a little house in Florida to escape the brutal Chicago winters, perhaps if we were lucky, grandchildren to spoil. But fate had other plans. In the middle of the celebration, Evelyn walked up to me. She was holding a manila envelope. Her smile was polite, but it never reached her eyes. "Michael," she said softly, her voice colder than a Chicago January, "I have a retirement gift for you." I opened the envelope. Divorce papers. My vision blurred. The words irreconcilable differences, division of assets, alimony, danced across the page. I looked up at her in disbelief. Evelyn leaned close, whispering into my ear so no one else could hear, "I don't want to take care of an old retiree. You understand, don't you, Michael?" And then I saw him. A stranger standing by the gate. A smug grin spread across his face as he watched me open those papers. I turned to my children, Daniel and Sophia. They weren't shocked. In fact, they exchanged glances as though this had all been rehearsed. "You knew?" I asked, my voice trembling. Daniel shrugged. "Dad, you have to understand. Mom deserves to be happy. And we need to think about the future too." Sophia nodded in agreement. "Your investments, the company stock, the house, it's a lot to manage. Maybe it's better in the hands of those who understand how to handle it now." And in that moment, everything became clear. This wasn't about Evelyn's happiness. It wasn't about freedom. It was about money. My money. They thought I was just a tired old man, an easy target. Someone who would sign anything they put in front of him. Someone who would die conveniently in a few years, leaving them with a fortune. But they had forgotten who I really was. They only saw Michael Grant, the father, the husband. They had forgotten about Michael Grant, the silent strategist. Folded the divorce papers neatly and slipped them into my pocket. "All right," I said calmly. "I'll sign." The party went on. Evelyn laughed with her new companion. My children whispered among themselves, already dividing the spoils. But inside, I was no longer broken. I was already calculating, already planning my next move. Because what they didn't know was that for the last 5 years, my instincts as a CFO had led me to diversify my wealth in ways they could never imagine. Offshore accounts, real estate trusts, investments hidden under different entities. The fortune they saw was only the surface. The real empire lay beneath the water, invisible to them. 3 days later, I signed the papers. Evelyn got the house, half the joint accounts, and alimony, according to Illinois law. Daniel and Sophia received stocks and access to a family trust I had created years ago. They thought they had won, but they had already lost. Because the very next day, I disappeared. I canceled my phone, deleted my social media, and moved into a small cabin on 10 acres of land in rural Oregon, far from the eyes of Chicago. At first, the calls came in endlessly. Evelyn demanding alimony adjustments, Daniel leaving voicemails asking about the company funds, Sophia demanding answers. But I ignored them all. For the first time in decades, silence became my greatest ally. In that quiet cabin, I transformed. I set up a small office, 3 monitors, high-speed satellite, internet, and all the tools I needed to trade and invest. My 30 years of experience analyzing companies became my secret weapon. Within 6 months, I doubled my capital. Within a year, I tripled it. While others gambled on meme, coins and trendy startups, I invested only in fundamentals. Solid companies, promising technologies, carefully calculated risks. At the same time, I worked on myself. At 62, I was in the best shape of my life. Hiking the Oregon trails, eating clean, lifting weights every morning. I let my beard grow, bought clothes I actually liked, not the stiff corporate suits I wore for decades, and slowly I became a new man. It was during one of my hikes that I met Clara Mitchell. She was 54, the owner of a small bookstore in Bend. Gray hair, bright smile, a love for literature that radiated from her every word. Our first conversation lasted 3 hours. We talked about books, travel, dreams we had abandoned. "You have an unusual energy," she told me one night, "like a man who walked through fire and came out stronger." 8 months later, we married quietly at a courthouse in Bend. No extravagance, no witnesses beyond 2 strangers. Just 2 people who knew they had found something real. 6 months after that, we adopted Lily, an 8-year-old girl whose parents had lost custody due to neglect. For the first time in years, I was happy, truly happy. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, my ex-wife and children were drowning. Evelyn's new man, whose name I later learned was Marcus, turned out to be a con artist. He drained her accounts, vanished, and left her broke. She lost the Winnetka house, moved into a cramped apartment, and sank into depression. Daniel invested everything into a cryptocurrency startup that collapsed in a Ponzi scheme. He lost over $400,000, including his kids' college funds. Sophia's boutique empire crumbled under debt. The pandemic killed her business. She owed over $200,000. One by one, their lives fell apart. And then, they came looking for me. My lawyer, Dr. Peterson, called me one morning. "Michael," he said, "your ex-wife and children are desperate. Evelyn's in financial ruin. Daniel is on the verge of losing his house. Sophia is begging for forgiveness. They all want to meet you. What should I tell them?" I looked out at my ranch in Oregon. Clara was laughing with Lily as they fed our horses. The Cascade Mountains glowed in the distance. "Tell them," I said slowly, "that Michael Grant does not wish to be contacted." But I wasn't finished. I decided to send them one final message. I posed for a photo with Clara, Lily, and our golden retriever, Max, in front of our new home, a 600-acre ranch with a stone and wood mansion, stables, and a private airstrip. On the back of the photo, I wrote, "The Grant Family, Oregon 2024, built on love, not money." Along with the photo, I sent them a letter. Dear Evelyn, Daniel, and Sophia, the man you betrayed no longer exists. What remains has not forgotten. You saw me as an old retiree with no value. You miscalculated. There will be no second chances, no reconciliation, no rescue. Family is built on love, respect, and loyalty, not greed. You made your choices. Now live with them. Michael Grant. Weeks later, Peterson told me the letter had shattered them. Evelyn collapsed into tears, calling his office dozens of times. Daniel wrote me a 10-page confession of regret. Sophia admitted the retirement party was a conspiracy and begged for forgiveness. But I felt no anger, only relief. I had carried the stone of betrayal in my chest for too long. Sending that letter released it forever. I had found my real family in Clara and Lily, and I wasn't going to let ghosts from Chicago steal one more second of my happiness. Today, I wake up every morning to laughter, love, and peace. The silent strategist they underestimated built a new empire, one not of money but of loyalty. Evelyn, Daniel, and Sophia taught me one thing. Family is not defined by blood, but by trust. And to those listening to my story, never underestimate a calm man. Never mistake silence for weakness, because sometimes the quietest strategist is planning the loudest revenge.